Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The crimson sky of Alicia burned overhead, casting an eerie glow over the battlefield. Jagged mountains loomed in the distance, their peaks shrouded in swirling clouds that seemed to cry out for the destruction below. Amidst the chaos of war-torn beauty stood Captain Jake Ryder, a human soldier hardened by countless battles, but still wrestling with his conscience. Looking out across the charred terrain, he felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. Years of fighting had left him energetic, yet disillusioned. He fought not just for glory, but to protect the innocent lives caught in the crossfire of an intergalactic conflict that never felt like it would end. Fearlessly leading his squad into the fray, Jake was a force of nature, charming and reckless. "Hey, Jake, ready for another day in paradise?" called out his comrade, Sergeant Rhea, her voice breaking through the oppressive tension that hung in the air. She flashed a grin, her confidence palpable despite the grave situation. "Just another day in hell," Jake replied, smirking as he examined the looming ruins around them. The remnants of a once thriving alien city lay scattered, a silent testament to the devastation brought by war. "Let's make sure we don't add to it." As they prepped their weapons, Rhea's demeanor shifted. "You've been quiet lately. This isn't just another mission, is it?" Jake released a sigh, rubbing the back of his neck. I've lost too many people, Rhea. Every time I pull the trigger, I question if it's worth it. How many more innocents will suffer because of our choices?" Before she could respond, an alarm blared, slicing through the haze of their conversation. In an instant, the chatter of the squad turned into focused efficiency. They gathered their gear, adrenaline pumping as they braced for the oncoming mission. "Head out, squad. We've got intel that a Valari princess has been captured and is being held in the enemy stronghold," Jake commanded, adrenaline igniting the spark of determination within him. "We're here to rescue her. Move out now." The squad quickly assembled, a mix of rugged warriors sharing the same resolve. They trusted Jake's instincts, even when he doubted himself. As they traversed the rugged path leading toward enemy territory, Jake's heart raced, not just with fear, but with a sense of purpose. The Valari were rumored to possess incredible feats of intelligence and compassion. Saving their princess could change the tide of war, but war was treacherous, and they all understood that. As they advanced through the alien landscape, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something far graver awaited them. A dark cloud of destiny looming ahead. The atmosphere tensed as the squad approached the enemy stronghold, a fortress of darkness that consumed the land. Towering walls rose like gargoyles, intricately designed yet foreboding, casting long shadows over the charred remnants of the countryside. The air felt charged with impending danger. "Remember, we're not the only ones with firepower," Rhea whispered to Jake as they crouched behind a rocky outcrop. "We need to move quickly and quietly." Jake nodded, scanning the patrols. Each guard radiated animosity, eyes keen and anticipatory. He felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the call to battle that awakened deep within. "Let's time our approach. We'll split into two teams. Rhea, you take the left flank. I'll go right." As the teams positioned themselves, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of urgency gnawing at his gut. This was different. It wasn't just an ordinary mission. With a sharp nod to Rhea, he led his team forward, their movements synchronized and silent. Approaching the massive gates, they swiftly neutralized two guards stationed at the entrance, their training kicking in swiftly. Just as Jake pushed forward to breach the threshold, a chilling scream echoed through the halls, a cry that pierced his heart. "Lozan!" A voice called out near the edge of his consciousness, an urgent pleading that would reverberate long after. "Move!" Jake barked, racing inside. The shadows danced eerily around him. He could feel the darkness closing in, fueling his determination. The corridor wound deeper into the heart of the fortress, darkness thickening around them. Flashes of blue light and blaster fire erupted as they engaged with more guards. Jake fought like a whirlwind, but amid the chaos, another scream, a desperate plea for help, echoed through the halls. "Get to her!" he shouted to his team. "Find the princess." He charged ahead, fueled by an instinct he could not suppress. Fighting through the maze-like structure, they finally came to a large chamber illuminated by torches. In its center, shackled and vulnerable, was Princess Lozane, ethereal and demanding, adorned in fabrics that suggested royalty but bore the dirt of captivity. Her gaze shot to Jake, a mix of surprise and fierce defiance illuminating her emerald eyes. "Human, what do you want with me?" she demanded, struggling against her bindings. "We're here to rescue you," Jake replied, stepping forward cautiously but confidently. "Stay behind me." Before he could free her, alarms blared through the chamber. The remaining guards flooded in like a swarm, eyes ablaze with rage. "Get her out! I'll hold them off," Jake shouted, driving his shoulder into the first guard, pushing him back while delivering swift blows to others who followed. Rhea maneuvered past him, releasing the princess from her chains, swiftly working to free the strong yet delicate figure as the guards converged. With a final shove, she cried out, "Princess, run!" only to be met by the weight of another assailant. Lozane hesitated, her instincts telling her to fight alongside her savior. But Jake was not about to let her take that risk. "Go. We won't let them take you." As her feet finally moved, Jake felt a rush of hope and desire surge through him. There was something enchanting about the princess. Her courage mirrored his own. With screams and blaster fire echoing in the halls, they fought their way out, leaving the stronghold engulfed in chaos behind them. They dashed together toward the world outside, the dawn of a new adventure, but not without the weight of danger looming ever closer. "Stay close, princess," he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through him. Glancing back at the stronghold, he knew they had only seconds before reinforcements would follow. "I can fight," Lozane interjected, her tone defiant as she kept pace beside Jake and Rhea, determination radiating from her. "Not yet. We need to get out of here first," Jake replied, casting a brief glance at her, captivated by her spirit. "Once we're safe, we'll strategize." They darted through the dense foliage, desperately evading the enemy patrols, listening as distant shouts and gunfire echoed throughout the landscape. Jake felt the compass of his instincts guiding him, navigating through the overgrown terrain. Rhea led the charge, adrenaline pushing her hands to unload blaster fire whenever danger approached. The princess matched their enthusiasm, her strength surprising Jake at every turn. But time was dwindling. They swung through the trees, Jake diving beneath branches, ensuring Lozane was sheltered from the chaos. He could hear the heavy footfalls of their pursuers echoing behind them, and in the thickened layer of leaves, both Jake's and Lozane's hearts hammered, unaccustomed to being the hunted rather than the hunter. "This way," Rhea called, spotting a narrow path leading to a clearing, a glimmer of hope shining through the shadow of despair. They burst into the clearing, gasping for breath, the open space permitting the warmth of the sun to shine down on them. But their moment of respite was short-lived. The sound of crashing branches indicated that their pursuers were hot on their trail. "Look out!" Rhea yelled, tackling Jake just as two enemy guards emerged from the underbrush. They rolled on the ground, disarming the guards with a flurry of swift strikes. Jake fought with renewed vigor, focused and intentional in every movement, while Lozane remained steadfast. Using two small hidden blades she had concealed in her attire, she engaged in combat alongside them, effortlessly putting her own skills on display. "Impressive," Jake called out as she disarmed an enemy with a deft twist of her wrist. "Fighting is in my blood," she replied, fierce and unwavering as she dispatched another foe. With the enemy subdued, they momentarily caught their breath, but Jake knew the danger didn't dissipate. It merely lay dormant. "Where do we go from here?" Lozane asked, brushing sweat from her brow, her eyes meeting Jake's with an intensity that ignited something deep within him. There was a spark that had birthed between their shared courage in battle. "There's a settlement not far from here," Rhea chimed in. "We can regroup and contact our fleet for immediate extraction." As they moved again, the urgency remained palpable. They reached the edge of the forest, and before them stretched a barren land interspersed with rocky crags and alien plants, which held no hint of familiarity for Jake and Rhea. Without warning, enemy forces began to converge on their location. The three exchanged glances, resolve crystallizing. "We need to run," Jake commanded, leading the way as his heart pounded in his chest. They dashed forward at breakneck speed, the once distant sounds of war closing in around them. Glimmers of energy blasters sparked through the air, each crack cutting through the tension as they sprinted toward the settlement. Jake could feel the formation of sweat on his brow as fear rushed through him, not for himself, but for Lozane. "Keep moving," he shouted, coaxing her forward. Each second spent lingering felt like an eternity as blaster fire whizzed nearby, igniting his protective instincts anew. With Lozane beside him, they pushed harder, adrenaline pumping through their veins, driven by the will to survive. As they reached the settlement at last, Jake turned, forming a protective barrier between Lozane and the advancing enemy. "Get inside!" he yelled as gunfire erupted all around them. The echo of chaos engulfed them while muffled cries of victory intertwined with the sounds of loss, the bitter symphony of war. But amidst the sensory overload, Jake found his focus once more, his heart racing as he positioned himself to protect Lozane and his team. As they crossed the threshold into safety, a renewed sense of purpose washed over him. Together, they fought the storm, and he couldn't help but feel that was just the beginning of their unyielding bond. Inside the rocky shelter of the settlement, the atmosphere shifted from chaos to a warm intimacy. The air was thick with the scent of fresh herbs and simmering food, bringing some comfort after the terror they had endured. Jake leaned against a crude wall, catching his breath while surveying the space. Lozane sat nearby, her regal composure slightly frayed but eyes bright and filled with curiosity. They had survived, but the battle still lingered in the back of Jake's mind. Her safety remained paramount. "Thank you, Captain Ryder," Lozane said, her voice soft yet commanding. "Your bravery saved my life. I can't express how grateful I am." The vulnerability in her gaze caught him off guard. "It was a team effort, Princess," he replied, his voice steady despite the rapid beating of his heart. "You fought like a warrior today. It's more than anyone can ask for." A soft smile touched her lips, and in an instant, the walls built by circumstance began to fade between them. "Still, you led us through with incredible strength." Jake felt the blush creeping up his cheeks, an unfamiliar comfort settling between them, making him longer for moments outside the battlefield. "I don't know if I could have handled it without you close," he admitted, the vulnerability of their encounter anchoring him in sincerity. Lozane's expression shifted, intrigue igniting within her emerald depths. "You handle far more than you realize. I saw the way you commanded your squad, how you led without hesitation. I admire that." Her words hung in the air like an unspoken promise, and Jake couldn't help the heat pooling in his gut. The eye contact held an electric intensity that made the ground feel unsteady beneath him. "What do you do when everything feels overwhelming?" she asked, finding comfort in sharing her thoughts. Though they were seemingly trivial, they spoke to their deeply rooted fears. "I focus on what I can control, my actions, my team. But even then, it can weigh heavy," he replied, reflecting on the battles fought and the ones yet to come. Lozane moved closer, her voice a whisper. "You're not just a soldier, Jake. You've protected me today, and for that, I owe you my life." Their eyes locked fiercely, an exchange filled with understanding and warmth that hinted at something deeper beneath the surface. He felt drawn to her, a magnetic pull sparking between them. They were warriors shaped molten by their experiences, yet right now, they craved connection. "Please call me Jake," he went on, setting aside formality. "We're in this together after all." "Then call me Lozane," she replied, a lightness to the moment as they fell into that delicate rhythm of building trust. As the soft sounds of people preparing the evening meal filled the air, Jake chuckled lightly, visibly relaxing. "It's going to be a long night, isn't it?" "All the more reason to stay alert," she said, matching his lighthearted banter while radiating grace even amid tension. The familiar camaraderie began to blossom. Jake admired Lozane's resilience, the way she straightened her back and held her head high despite the uncertainty pulling at the corners of her mind. Tell me what it's like being a princess, he challenged, leaning closer. Is it all crowns and lavish parties? Lozane laughed softly. Not quite. It comes with its burdens. I often feel trapped between my desires and my duties. Sounds familiar, he replied. I know the weight of choice well. Their laughter echoed, dissipating the shadows cast by war as Jake gazed into her eyes. The princess was both vulnerable and strong, and he realized how far removed he was from the soldier's armor he often wore. And in that moment, Jake couldn't help but wonder if within the chaos of their lives, love could bloom like fragile flowers breaking through concrete. Delicate yet powerful, an astonishing testament to their enduring spirit. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, transforming the skies into an exquisite canvas of golden hues and soft pinks, life within the settlement persisted. But amidst this serene backdrop, Jake felt the throbbing pulse of their recent harrowing escape. The night called, yet the weight of their shared journey urged for truth. You've seen conflict firsthand, haven't you? Lozane asked, her tone dipping into genuine curiosity as she tended to a small cooking fire. More than I care to admit, he replied, staring into the flames, recognizing shades of his own past. War has a way of consuming everything you hold dear. I've always longed to experience the broader universe, she confessed, her voice barely reaching above a whisper like gathering starlight. Yet the reality of it terrifies me. It can be daunting, Jake agreed, but you more than anyone have the courage to endure. I saw that today. Lozane's attention flickered to him, her eyes shining bright, as if seeing him anew. You fought not just for my life, but for all those you have lost. It's deeply humbling. I fight for those who are unable to protect themselves, Jake replied, feeling the tide of conviction wash over him. But I often wonder, what's the point if we lose sight of why we fight? A heavy silence lingered as they allowed their thoughts to breathe. There was gravity in their exchange, a palpable yearning for understanding, reflecting their realities shaped by duty and loss. They drifted into softer territory then, dissecting little pieces of their lives with gentle laughter. Lozane talked of her childhood, the responsibilities thrust upon her too young, and the diligent efforts to find her own voice beneath layers of royal expectation. And what about you, Jake? She pressed. What do you long for? His breath hitched as he pondered his answer. I've always wanted freedom. Freedom to choose my own path, without the weight of command shackling me. She tilted her head slightly, the shadows dancing across her features as light flickered in her eyes. What would that look like for you? A life outside the battlefield? He smiled, recalling fleeting dreams, filling his mind before his life became a string of battles. To live without fighting, perhaps to build something meaningful, a home, perhaps a family. Lozane seemed taken aback by the idea, her facade slipping. A family, she echoed, the weight of the thought settling between them. Yeah, he admitted as the tension sparked again. I want a life filled with love, laughter, things beyond war. His heart thumped against his chest, vulnerability slipping into the open like a tether for the future. I would love to experience something so pure, she murmured, stepping closer with every word shared. But the weight of my title suffocates those dreams. His gaze met hers, an inseparable link igniting between them, a bridge built on their understanding of loss, duty, and the essence of life itself. I want to support you in any way I can, Jake said sincerely, leaning closer, their breaths mingling in the charged air. You deserve that chance, Lozane, a choice to create your destiny. Lozane's eyes glimmered with something raw and profound, holding back the tears that threatened to break through. Our lives differ, yet we share the burden of responsibility. We have both felt the fire of loss close to our hearts. Her voice quivered wordlessly, exchanging looks that spoke volumes. The world around them faded to a whisper as they ventured deeper into the recesses of their souls, united by an unbreakable thread. In that cocoon of warmth, boundaries blurred. Yearning loomed between them, an unspoken understanding that transcended the turmoil they faced and burgeoned into a connection neither dared to ignore any longer. He reached out, fingers brushing against hers, which quivered at the soft caress, capturing the moment beneath the shimmering stars now scattered overhead. The heaviness of their world melted into tranquility. As they gazed into each other's eyes, what began as tension morphed into something incredible. The beginnings of hope, passion simmering on the edges, cautiously igniting the bridge to their hearts, teasing the promise of something infinite just beyond reach. The night deepened, casting a silvery veil over the settlement, and the crackling fire painted flickering shadows on their faces. Jake felt his heart racing as he leaned closer to Lozane, captivated by the world within her eyes, where unsteady determination danced with an insatiable yearning. "Do you think we'll ever find peace?" she asked, breaking the silence that had enveloped them. Her gaze drifted to the starlit sky, freeing the moment from the harsh reality of war. "I hope so," he replied, his voice low, considering the weight of her question. "But peace often requires sacrifices. It's complicated." Lozane's expression shifted, a mix of vulnerability and resolve emerging. "I've experienced too many losses to count, yet here I stand, fighting for a future when I should be grieving my past." She turned to him, searching his eyes, peeling away the layers of their facades. "Why do you fight?" Jake hesitated, grappling with the depth of her query. "I fight for those who can't, as much as I fight for my own freedom. I fight to forge a world where we can be safe from war," he confessed, feeling the truth echo within him. "Is that truly enough?" she challenged gently. "Are we destined to battle forever, shackled by our fates? Or will we choose to break free?" Jake felt a rush of heat press against his skin, incredibly drawn to her. The air thickened, wrapping them in the intimacy of shared truths. Something ignited under the surface, charging their surroundings with a visceral, palpable tension. "What if we chose to break free tonight?" he asked, emboldened by the moment. "What if we emerged from this chaos, if only for a while?" Lozane's breath caught in her throat, surprise igniting a spark of intrigue. "Are you suggesting we look beyond our realities?" Jake leaned forward, their faces just inches apart. "Maybe we could breathe without fear for a moment. Just you and me." A tight knot of electricity buzzed in the air, the warmth between them shifting as he reached for her hand. She hesitated for a heartbeat, and then she took it, intertwining their fingers, the touch igniting all-consuming flames. "What do you have in mind?" Her voice trembled, a delicious mix of playfulness and uncertainty. "Just to enjoy this time together," he offered, "to share whatever we need without the burdens of our titles." With their palms pressed together, he guided her closer until their bodies nearly touched. He could sense her heartbeat quicken, mirroring his own as nervous anticipation circled around them. They both wanted more than just pleasant conversation. They craved connection to fill the void left by the burdens they both carried. Lozane's voice dropped to a whisper, a teasing edge threading through. "You know, the last man who tried to kiss me ended up locked in his own castle." A laugh escaped Jake's lips, breaking the tension, allowing them both to relax even more. "I promise not to imprison you," he replied, holding her gaze, their faces alight with a rare spark that formed between them, while urgency dripped with the weight of allure. "Then perhaps," she started, "we should take that leap together." Jake's heart thundered in his chest. In that moment, time seemed to stretch endlessly. With a touch of hesitation but bolstered by confidence, he leaned in closer, capturing her lips with his own, gently at first. Fireworks exploded behind his eyes, an intoxicating blend of sweetness and urgency. The kiss deepened as she responded with fervor. Hers was a dance of desire, her body leaning closer, every lingering moment fusing their souls. The world around them dissipated as they fell into each other's embrace, the space charged with heated breath and fervent longing. Jake's grip around her waist tightened as he pulled her against him, pressing her softness into the hard lines of his body. The taste of her lips was intoxicating, lush with unspoken promises and aching desires. Lozane shared a soft gasp as their bodies collided, a warmth blossoming as they lost themselves in the fire ignited within their connection, drawing them closer like moths to a flame. As Jake explored her lips, The world outside the settlement began to chew at the edges of reality. With each heart-pounding moment, they wrestled with their fears, pouring their hearts into the rhythm of the kiss. This was everything they had fought for, the liberation from the chaos that surrounded them, the desire to exist without the shadows of their past wars haunting their steps. That moment felt infinite, a catharsis, the knowledge of a bond forming between them. They broke apart reluctantly, breaths mingling as they both fought to regain composure, hearts thrumming in a newfound rush of exhilaration. "What was that?" she breathed, a blush creeping across her cheeks, radiating a beauty that made him half wish they hadn't stopped. "That was a taste of freedom," he replied, a smile tugging at his lips with a blend of sincerity and mischief. Lozane chuckled softly, her cheeks still rosy under the moonlight. They were both deeply aware of the doors they had opened, leaving them craving more. Tonight, they fought not just for survival but for connection, a promise of something beautiful amidst a world fraught with danger. They could see it beautifully unfolding even through the chaos swirling around them. As the night deepened, the stillness around the settlement betrayed an uneasy calm. Jake and Lozane had spent hours lost in each other, yet the specter of danger loomed overhead, like a storm cloud gathering strength. The fleeting moments shared were too fragile, wreathed in uncertainty, a fragile cocoon that could shatter with the wrong sound. While the stars twinkled down on them, a sudden shift in the air sent a ripple of dread through Jake's spine. His instincts were sharp, honed through countless battles. Something was off. The ethereal connection they had built seemed to crack under the weight of war's reality. "Don't you feel it?" Jake asked, eyes narrowing as he scanned the perimeter. The air tingled with tension, heavier than before. Lozane nodded, apprehension knitting her brow. "There's something menacing out there." Without warning, the tranquility shattered as enemy forces launched an attack, their shadows slinking through the forest's edge like predators, waiting to pounce. Jake instinctively moved to shield Lozane, adrenaline surging through him as blaster fire erupted. "Get to safety," he yelled, voice gruff and urgent. "We need to regroup." The tranquility they had nurtured vanished like smoke, replaced by chaos. In an instant, blaster shots rained down, and flares of energy sliced through the night air. They were overwhelmed by the sound of explosions and cries piercing the calm night, a potent reminder of their reality. Rhea shouted commands urging the scattered civilians to take shelter, but Jake's focus sharpened solely on Lozane. She was the priority, the very reason he fought. "This way," he called, pulling her toward a makeshift barricade. As they crouched behind the debris, he felt the weight of his duty. The presence of an impending loss threatened to inch close as violence swirled around them. The flickering lights illuminated Lozane's terrified expression, and a painful realization gripped his heart. "Stay close to me," he urged, determination igniting within him. "We must find a way to fend them off." "No, I can't just stand here," she argued, refusing to let fear prevail. "I can help." Jake turned to face her, desperation reflected in his eyes. "No, it's too dangerous. I won't let them take you. Trust me." In that moment, he saw the defiance spark anew in her gaze, a reminder of the fierce princess he had come to admire. "I refuse to be merely a pawn. My life is at stake too." Before he could act, a volley of shots rang out, and Lozane launched herself into action, throwing herself into the fray even under the threat of heavy fire. She was resolute, a fierce warrior unyielding in her pursuit to protect those she loved. A guard rushed at her, weapon drawn, and she countered effortlessly, deftly evading his attack and dispatching him with a quick and skillful blade through her intended target. Just then, she caught Jake's eye, and her fierce courage bloomed even brighter. "Lothane, no." Jake roared, the sound of the battle muted at his urgency. Instinctively, he lunged toward her, disarming another across her path. But as he turned, gunfire peppered the area, and chaos erupted with blinding speed. Time twisted. Fear struck hard as a pair of armored opponents charged at Jake. He fought and dodged, landing precise blows until he felt the sting of blaster fire searing through his shoulder, knocking him off balance. Pain radiated through him, but fear for Lozane surged to control his movements, denying the piercing agony. "Jake!" Lozane screamed, seeing him fall. Her heart thudded in her chest. She rushed toward him, slicing through the opposing guards with determined ferocity. "I'm okay," he lied through gritted teeth, adrenaline allowing him to push through the pain. "Get back, help Rhea." "No, I won't leave you." She stepped closer, despite the grave danger surrounding them, the warmth of her body fighting against the chilling threats closing in. Desperation boiled in him. "We must regroup, Lozane, or we'll lose everything. We need to find cover, now." With cumulative adrenaline and fear fueling them, they fought back to back, their movements a synchronized dance of survival despite the overwhelming odds. Rhea appeared, another burst of fire raining beside them as she grabbed Lozane's arm, pulling her toward a hidden path. "Now, this way." "You're not leaving me behind," Jake protested, struggling to push back against the rush of attackers pouring toward them. "Yes, we are," Lozane shouted, fierce determination unfurling as she grabbed his hand, pulling him backward. "We can't fight them all alone." Amid the chaos, Jake weighed the tumult between command and desperation as he felt Lozane's touch anchoring him. With one final glance over his shoulder to combat the staggering fear within him, he relented. "Okay, let's move." As the three escaped down the concealed path, they fought their way through the terrain filled with debris and echoes of destruction, a harrowing reminder of how quickly safety could dissipate. They plunged into the depths of the forest, hearts racing, promising each other they would emerge alive. Hope flickered amidst despair. They were bound, their myriad fates entwined, fighting against the cruel tide of war as they raced toward uncertainty, the pleas for survival merging with the hearts that beat in time. With each step through the dense underbrush, anxiety churned within Jake. The weight of his injuries limited his movement, and he gritted his teeth against the pain, refusing to let it become a burden. He felt Lozane's hand gripping his arm, a comforting anchor amidst the uncertainty that loomed ahead. "Stay close," Rhea shouted, maneuvering through branches while keeping an eye on their surroundings. The sounds of battle echoed behind them, a haunting melody that urged them to press onward before it swallowed them whole. "Where do we go from here?" Lozane asked, her voice a mix of urgency and deep concern. "There's a hidden cave up ahead," Rhea said, pushing through the foliage. "It will give us a moment to regroup." They soon reached the cave, a dark hollow that sheltered them from the dangers lingering outside. As they stepped inside, Jake let out a sigh, grateful for the protection it provided. But he was still acutely aware of the potential threats that remained. "Check the perimeter," he ordered, slightly grimacing as he moved to secure the entrance, forcing himself to swallow the pain coursing through him. As Rhea and Lozane searched the cave, Jake couldn't help but admire Lozane's strength. The princess was resilient, refusing to be defined solely by her royalty. At that moment, they were all equals, survivors united by a shared purpose. The flickering light of makeshift torches illuminated the cave, casting shadows that danced across the walls. But the moment felt fragile, teetering on the brink of uncertainty. "Jake, sit down," Rhea insisted, her voice firm as she approached him. "We need to check your injuries." He realized he had been ignoring the pain. Now he felt it creeping up, a stinging reminder of the gunfire he had received. Reluctantly, he sank to the ground, allowing Rhea to examine him. "Looks like a round grazed your shoulder," she muttered, motioning for Lozane's help. "We need to clean it up before it gets infected." "I'm fine," he replied dismissively, but Rhea shot him a look that countered his bravado. "No, you're not," Lozane said, kneeling beside him with a mixture of gentleness and strength in her demeanor. "Please let us take care of you." Jake couldn't argue. He felt grateful for their attention, however reluctant he was to burden Lydia with his pain. "All right, just be quick." Rhea cleaned the wound, gently wiping away the dirt and blood. Jake winced at the sting. It took everything in him not to flinch. Lozane observed silently, her emerald eyes shimmering with concern. "Thank you," he finally managed, looking up at them, touched by the solidarity evident in their expressions. "You're both warriors. I'm lucky." Rhea grinned. "It's not luck, Jake. It's resilience." Lozane nodded, leaning closer. You've given me hope. You fought for me. And it's a fight I never expected to be standing here for. She almost seemed to glow in the torchlight as Jake held her gaze, feeling warmth radiate between them. She was courageous in ways that he hadn't expected, and each day, she drew closer to the fringes of his heart, igniting a longing that spiraled into something much deeper. Before he could respond, a rumble echoed outside the cave, a foreboding reminder of the war that pursued them. Rhea's expression hardened. We need to move. We can't stay here too long. Agreed, Jake said, feeling the urgency return to his veins. They'll find us if we don't move quickly. Jake stood slowly, resting a hand on the cave's wall for support. Lozane rose with him, her presence unwavering, despite the chaos. He felt comforted by her proximity. As they maneuvered out of the cave, war cries echoed in the air, and Jake's instincts flared again. We need to find a way to re-establish contact with our fleet. I can get us to safety, Rhea said, determination etched across her features. But we have to stick together. No one gets left behind. Narrating the path ahead, Rhea led them deeper into the forest landscape, the trees whispering secrets as they moved silently, hearts pounding. The hum of battle seemed to fade into the background as they entered a narrow crevice shielded by the foliage. This way, she urged, glancing over her shoulder with keen eyes. They pressed forward, trusting Rhea's sharp instincts to guide them. But as they traversed through the rugged terrain, a sudden blast shrouded the area, sending debris flying. The ground quaked beneath them, causing Jake to stumble, and Lozane caught him just in time, steadying them both. Jake, she cried out, panic lacing her tone. Are you okay? Just my pride, he quipped, fighting against the dizziness pulsing through his veins. But we shouldn't linger. They continued forward, the path narrowing as they followed Rhea's lead. The world beyond felt far removed, yet the threat persisted, predators sharpening their sights. As they reached a hidden glade, the sound of running water soothed their jangled nerves. The radiant moon cast its luminescent glow, igniting the gentle ripples and creating a breathtaking paradise. But not for long. Shadows crept behind, reminding them of their vulnerability. We'll need to cross the glade, Rhea said, scanning the area as if sensing the dangers approached. Stay alert. They stepped out into the clearing cautiously, every rustle of leaves amplifying the tension in the air. Jake felt his heart race as he concentrated on the treetops. Then came the sound, a rustling among the foliage that echoed like thunder. Keep moving, he shouted, warding off the creeping fear that clawed at him from the inside. They rushed across the clearing, urgency pushing them closer to survival. But the attackers were upon them, their snarls echoing through the night. Jake pushed ahead, forcing his body to respond despite the pain. Stay close to me, he roared, adrenaline flooding his veins as he met the first assailant with defiant fury. Each blow landed with brutal clarity. The gnarled vines and shadows converged around him, but he fought relentlessly, gesturing for Lozane and Rhea to find cover. Just as they were about to retreat beyond the glade, Jake felt a sharp pain gripping his arm as an enemy managed to slip through. His vision blurred, but he held onto consciousness as he threw himself low, rolling out of the way to regain his footing. Jake! Lozane's voice flared like a beacon, her resolve ignited. You won't fall back without me. Summoning the last remnants of energy, he staggered forward, finding Lozane behind a boulder. She met him with fierce determination, the silhouette of hope standing at his side, illuminating even the darkest corners of despair. Breathe, Jake, she urged, her eyes fixing on him with unwavering strength, igniting every part of him. Together, they fought fiercely, the shadows retreating, the essence of life surrounding them, yet promising they would rise again. They emerged alive from the chaos, burdened yet fiery, a will that could not be extinguished. The connection deepened between them, a merging of souls, carved from survival, bound by a destiny neither could ignore. Even as they found refuge from the storm of chaos, their hearts surged with determination, love budding among the embers of battle, a fierce fire that promised a future. come what may. After what felt like an eternity, Jake and Lozane finally reached the safety of a remote encampment where remnants of their allies had gathered, weary yet hopeful. The atmosphere buzzed with frantic energy, tending to the wounded and re-establishing plans for their next move. Jake leaned against a makeshift table within the encampment, drenched in sweat, the echoes of battle still swirling in his mind, a haunting reminder of how close they had come to losing everything. But in the chaos, something beautiful had blossomed between him and Lozane, and even amid the destruction, that connection fueled him with resolve. Lozane brushed past him, her eyes scanning the scene, taking in the expressions of those present. "We need to re-establish contact with the fleet," she said, urgency vibrating through her voice. She was still radiating the strength and determination that had first sparked his admiration for her. "We will," Jake replied, watching her intently as she navigated among the hurried soldiers. In that moment, he felt empowered, each glance exchanged igniting the fire within him. They gathered in a corner of the encampment to devise a plan, the sounds of forging ties and gathering resources thundering around them. Jake admired their resilience, yet he feared for Lozane's safety, suddenly understanding how much she had come to mean to him. "Once we establish communication, we can regroup and devise a plan," Rhea said, her tone resolute as she scribbled notes on a torn piece of metal. Laughing softly, Jake felt reassured. What if we reached out to the Volari forces directly to signal for aid? "We need to tread lightly," Lozane replied, her brow furrowed. "I can't risk putting my people in direct danger." "Then we'll find another way," Jake responded, his voice steady. He turned to Rhea, who pored over the maps frantically. "What's the best course?" Just then, a cold voice interrupted. "You're wasting your time, Captain." Jake whipped around to find General Karan, a man whose presence filled the space with palpable tension, an adversary lurking in the shadows. "Your efforts are futile if you think anyone will listen to a human, let alone a captured princess." "What do you want?" Jake shot back, anger simmering just beneath the surface. "We're united in this fight. There's no need for division." General Karan narrowed his eyes. "Unity? You're a liability. I won't risk my forces for a princess seeking her whims in a human's hands." Rhea stepped forward defiantly. "Lozane is not just any princess. She holds power with her people. They will unite with us once you give them the chance." Yet Karan's dismissal hung thick in the air, casting an ominous shadow over their gathering. "You think sentiment can save you in war? Our survival doesn't stem from empty promises." The exchange echoed heavily in Jake's mind. Tension filled the room as uncertainty coiled around them. Lozane stepped forward, the light of her resolve breaking through. "General, we must stand together. It's our only chance," she urged, her voice steady, unwavering even in the face of resistance. "We can guide our people to safety and rebuild if we stand united." Though the general remained obstinate, Jake found conviction shining in Lozane's eyes, a beacon that rekindled his determination. "We'll figure this out together," he assured her, heart racing. After the general stormed away, Rhea sighed, tension easing within her. Let him fume. He doesn't understand the depth of our strength. "We'll prove him wrong," Jake vowed, looking at Lozane, whose unwavering spirit inspired him. The future should be ours to shape. But as they drew closer, a shiver coursed through him. He felt desperate for what lay ahead. What could happen to Lozane if they failed? "I won't let anything happen to you, Lozane," he promised, feeling the gravity in the depths of his heart. She paused, gaze igniting. "Neither will I, Jake. We're warriors. We have to be brave and fight for the future." As they filled the hours with planning and strategy, their bond deepened. The stakes became intimately clear, and Jake could feel the budding connection between them push against the walls they had built. As darkness enveloped the camp, a warmth settled around their hearts. Lozane turned to Jake, vulnerability reflected in her eyes. "What will happen after this?" He hesitated, the weight of her question heavy against their fleeting moments of camaraderie. "I don't know, but I hope." She moved closer, intertwining their fingers as the world outside melted away, stripping their connection bare. "Hope is what we hold on to," she breathed, gazing at him like he was the answer to her questions. "Together we can face anything," he murmured, his heart pounding beneath the weight of her gaze. And then he kissed her, a moment unscripted yet raw and breathtaking. Their lips met in a collision of warmth and solace, igniting the fear of separation nagging at the edges of their hearts. It tasted sweet yet bittersweet as they clung to one another like lifelines. The kiss deepened, fraught with emotion. Nothing else mattered: the war, the darkness around them. They existed, together in a world they would forge anew. And in that moment, Jake promised to stand by her, fighting for their future, their bond unyielding against the chaos that surrounded them. They were soldiers, yes, but ultimately, they were two hearts intertwined against the encroaching night, fighting for love, hope, and a chance to start anew. Days stretched into weeks, battles raged, and alliances shifted, but amidst the chaos, a new light had emerged. Lozane and Jake had fought tirelessly, proving their worth through trials and tribulations. Together, they forged a formidable force, rallying both the Valari and humans on Alicia. Their bond had blossomed into a beacon of hope for their people, a representation of unity amid war. As the last treaty was penned, a fragile yet resilient peace blossomed, igniting joyous energy through the encampment. The war-torn grounds transformed into a scene reminiscent of celebration, flowers strewn about, rich fabrics adorning tents, laughter mingling with the gentle buzz of life returning. Jake stood beside Lozane, all blooming in his chest as he witnessed their hard work bear fruit. "You did this," he whispered, turning to her with admiration and gratitude evident in his gaze. "I could not have done it without you," she replied, her smile brightening the room. "You've shown me the strength within myself I never knew existed. You protected me and our people through every storm. Together, we weathered them all," he echoed softly, feeling a rush of warmth as he contemplated the meaning of their steadfast bond. As the evening approached, the feasting began, laughter ringing in the air, a reminder of resilience woven through their trials. Lozane stood before their combined forces, addressing them with an enthusiasm unmatched. "Tonight, we celebrate not just our victory, but the unity we forged. Together," she proclaimed, raising her glass, "we will rebuild our worlds side by side." The cheers rumbled like a warm embrace, filling Jake's heart with joy. In the midst of the festivities, Rhea approached, wearing a wide grin. "Look at them, Jake. This is just the beginning." "Indeed it is," he replied, searching the crowd until his eyes met Lozane's. She radiated strength and beauty, and at that moment, he felt a growing conviction nestled deep within. He wanted more from life than just victory. The sun began to set, bathing the sky in pastel colors, igniting the horizon in hues of orange and pink. The world felt alive, as if it too moved to a rhythm inspired by the promise of tomorrow. "May I have everyone's attention?" Lozane called, her voice cutting through joyous murmurs like a vibrant note in symphony. Instantly, the crowd turned, and excitement rippled through the faces. "Jake," she began, emotion spilling from her with each word, "you came to my rescue when I was trapped in darkness, and in you, I found the light I didn't realize I was missing." Jake felt his heart race as she approached him, and the world began to fade, their connection pulsing, electrifying the air between them. "Together we have endured," she continued, tears shimmering in her eyes. "Today we have chosen to fight for our people, our futures, and most importantly, for the love we built through chaos." With bated breath, the crowd fell silent, watching them with rapt attention. "Jake Ryder," Lozane said, stepping closer, her gaze unwavering, "you have shown me what it means to wield hope, but most importantly, you've shown me what love is." In that moment, Jake felt as if the very universe aligned around them, stars shimmering with unspoken promises as he searched Lozane's gaze. "Lozane," he began, voice thick with emotion, "my greatest treasure in this life is you. You are my heart, the person I want to stand beside forever." He knelt before her, surrendering to the vulnerability that exposed his soul. "Will you marry me?" The question hung in the air like a twinkling star, potent with expectancy. Gasps filled the space, the crowd simultaneously leaning forward, breathless, as they awaited her response. Lozane's eyes shimmered with happiness and disbelief, and after a heartbeat felt like a lifetime, she nodded, tears falling freely. "Yes!" she cried, wrapping her arms around him, pulling him against her. "With all my heart." Cheers erupted as Jake slipped a gorgeous ring onto her finger, a delicate band set with Valari gemstones, capturing the essence of their world. The crowd roared with joy, celebrating not just the union of two warriors, but a love story that would forge its legacy. As Lozane pulled back to look into his eyes, she brushed a tender thumb across his cheek. "I will always fight for you, just as you have fought for me," she vowed, shimmering with the promise of what lay ahead. "Together," he replied, leaning in for their kiss, their two souls merging into one moment, one fabric, wholly intertwined. Under the twinkling stars, surrounded by cheers, laughter, and love, they danced as time halted around them. In that dazzling moment, celebrated by their people, Jake and Lozane knew hope would endure in every heartsmanship they forged. The future lay before them, vibrant and alive, and as they turned toward the horizon hand in hand, their love would blossom as beautifully as the stars shining brightly above, a testament to the battle-worn hearts that had finally found home